gorgeous, and welcome back to the Manifesting Formula course. Now, I actually just want to say congratulations for watching this. And I know the videos aren't too long or complicated, but you would be surprised how many people sign up to a free series like this and then they just can't be bothered watching it, let alone taking any action. And that's the biggest thing about the law of attraction. You don't just do something once and expect it to happen for you. You actually have to participate in it. So that's why I want to say congratulations, because the amount of people who actually sign up, just a really small percentage will actually even watch this video and let alone action what I'm going to tell you to do. So I just want to say you're awesome. So thank you. Now, we've already talked about steps 1 and 2 of the manifesting formula. And the third step, which starts with an A, you might think it stands for action, but it doesn't. It actually stands for something else, which I'm going to reveal in a second. But let's talk another big problem around manifesting the law of attraction is that it's really easy to get excited at the start when you set your goals. But then you can very quickly lose enthusiasm and you lose those positive vibes very quickly. So it's like in Peter Pan, right? The children learn to fly by thinking happy thoughts. But when they lose those happy thoughts or negativity comes in, suddenly they're like splat down to the ground because they can't maintain it anymore. And this has happened so many times to the women that I've seen who really struggle with their goals, because it's easy to psych yourself out and lose that initial excitement and lose those happy thoughts. And this is when the universe starts to go, I don't think you really want this. Or maybe it gets all too hard and then you even question yourself, oh my God, do I really even want this? This feels too hard. So I think you've got a couple of choices here if you're really kind of struggling with your positive vibes. First up, you can go back to step number 1, because maybe as you've gone through, you've uncovered some new negative beliefs that you need to declutter. So go back and do that. Or you can go back to step 2, because maybe the universe has started to bring you some opportunities and you're like, that's not quite right. I need to refine that. So you have to go back and get a little bit more specific, which you can just do in a moment. It doesn't take months to go back and do it. But don't just push through or think that you have to accept what's being presented to you. Just go back and refine your goal a little bit more and see what happens. But if you're ready to move on, let's talk about step 3 and what this A really stands for. Now, this one actually stands for anchors and creating positive anchors for you to stay in that positive flow of your goal. And this is really the biggest secret. And this is what helped me win that massive travel competition, by the way. And it's now probably my most favorite and most enjoyable manifesting technique. Because halfway through that kind of all expenses paid trip that we won, I was in a luxury cabin in Bali, and I couldn't sleep, and I started to think and got up and I journaled all of those positive anchors that I used to manifest winning that competition. And I actually came up with more than 50 different things that I did. So what does that mean? What are positive anchors? It just means that I had 50 different manifesting techniques that I used to keep me in the positive mindset all the time. And honestly, that is what it's going to take. You can't just get excited about your goal for a couple of minutes or even a few days and that's it. You have to get into that vortex of positivity that Abraham Hicks talks about. And when you do, that's when those synchronicities will start. That's when things will start to feel a little bit magical, and that's when you're in the flow. And that's when it's really easy and fun. Now, you might feel when you're in that moment of positivity, you found that magic pixie dust and you're flying and it's really awesome. But it can be really hard to maintain that, especially in that lag time between when you set the goal and when you achieve it. You're like, dude, where's my stuff? I can't be positive. And let's be realistic. You cannot be positive and happy 100% of the time. Here's the good news. You don't need to be. You really don't. And I think people think that because, I call myself the lucky bitch, that I am just 100% positive all the time. And I'm not. And that's why these positive anchors are so important. They're going to remind you about your goal and they're going to keep your intentions focused without actually really thinking about it that hard. And when you feel good about your goal, you're going to start to act in subtle ways. And that's what's going to make the next 2 steps much easier if you can crack that positive anchor thing. So what kind of anchors should you do? And you might be thinking, Denise, can you just explain? I'm not quite sure even what you're talking about. So let me give you a couple of really practical examples. So when I had applied for the travel competition and I was in that lag, I was like, oh my God, 30,000 people have applied for this competition. So I knew it was kind of a long shot, but I still was convinced that I was going to win it, right? But it was kind of exhausting just to continually write down like a million times a day, I've won the competition, I've won the competition, I've won the competition, I've won the competition. And I started getting a headache, right? Trying to think about it all the time. I was getting exhausted, I was getting overwhelmed, and I was starting to kind of psych myself out. So I embraced this positive anchor kind of mentality and made everything automatic. And I just put all these little reminders in my day to get back into that manifesting zone as quickly as possible. So for example, I changed the password on my work computer to competition winner. And like 50 times a day, I had to type in competition winner, competition winner. So it became kind of positive brain training, right? Competition winner, competition winner. And I've talked about this passwords thing before. I talk about it in all of my courses, and I know other people talk about it too now. But have you actually done it? Like, have you actually actioned it? Have you actually changed your passwords? And it makes a huge difference to your daily manifesting if you don't really have to think about stuff like this too much. You already have to type in a password, so it may as well be your income goal, for example. And make sure you update it regularly so it's not an old goal that you're typing in, because it's going to make you smile every time you type it in, or it's going to make you like go, oh, exciting. So another thing I did was I changed my husband's name in my phone. So every time he texted me, every time he sent me a message, it would come up like Mark, co-competition winner. And I'd be like, oh my God. It was such a really simple little thing, but it just added to my daily kind of happy thoughts feeling. And it was enough to send me right back into that positive place where I was convinced I was going to win, but it took no effort on my part. So as I said, I did about 50 different positive anchors, and all of those little tricks really helped and compounded. Now, I don't have time to go through all of them, and I do teach them in my advanced manifesting course, but you kind of get the general idea of what you can do. And the best thing is if you layer them into your life, so you're not working hard to remember what your goal is. You're trying to just build a really strong foundation of belief, especially that kind of unconscious belief. Now, this is not about being the luckiest person, but it's just about not leaving anything to chance, filling all of those little gaps of time. So it's all just building on top of each other, and your belief is compounding day by day. And that really is kind of the lazy lucky bitch way, because you set some of these anchors up, you know, like the password, like the phone thing, and you don't even have to think about it. Now, when I turn my phone on, you can see it's a picture of me outside of a house that I wanted, and I actually just manifested that recently. Let's see if I can show you. But every time I saw it, every time I picked up my phone, it was just another visual like, oh, wow. And you can't overdose on these things. So use everything you can think of. Put dream boards everywhere. Add visual reminders of your goal all over your house. And just keep reminding yourself what you're manifesting. So why are all these little things so important? Why bother? Like, do they really make a difference? And I think they really do. The magic is in those details. Now, I always think of it, right? The difference between someone who's just really good at running and someone who is an Olympic athlete. In reality, they're both good at running, right? And there's probably only a few seconds, or probably hours for me, but between good and someone who's the best in the world, like literally a few seconds. But that's what it takes for people who succeed big time in the world. It's not magic. It's just those little tweaks. Now, we might call it manifesting in the woo-woo world, but manifesting isn't just about magic. Manifesting just means to make something real. And doing these anchors is about not leaving anything to chance, trying everything that you can do to give yourself the best chance at achieving your goals. And sometimes, like honestly, sometimes I pinch myself about how different my life is compared to just a few years ago. And you know what? I didn't grow up rich. No one expected me to be financially successful, and I definitely did not have any business role models at all. I've come from a single parent family, and I just it wasn't expected of me. And sometimes I'll meet a friend from back home and they're like, Denise, how have you done this? Because it looks like an overnight success, right? But all of these little lessons have been compounding for years. I've been layering in all of these manifesting secrets for a long time. So now I've got a really strong foundation, and I can manifest things pretty quickly without thinking about it too much. And this is exactly what can happen for you as well when you take this formula and actually implement what I tell you to do and actually action it. All right. So write down in the comments, what positive anchors are you going to implement right now? You can do some of these as you're listening to me, but be accountable and actually do them, because it'll make a huge difference.